We're interviewing Mr. Leon M. Gorczyca at the Connecticut Street Armory in Buffalo, New York. It's August 29th, 2001. Interviewer is Michael Akey. Videographer is Wayne Clarke. Mr. Gorczyca, where were you born?
Born in Lackawanna, New York.
Okay.
May 16, 1932.
You grew up in Lackawanna?
Lackawanna all my life. I couldn't wait to come back. Anytime I left Lackawanna, I couldn't wait to come back to it.
Really?
I loved it. Yeah.
Oh.
I still love it.
You went through all schooling in Lackawanna?
All schooling in Lackawanna, elementary, high school, and also schooling in Buffalo and Michigan State.
When did you graduate from high school?
1950.
1950.
Just celebrated our 50th anniversary last September.
Oh, very good, very good. And the Korean War is on the horizon. What did you think?
I never thought much about the Korean War. Coming out of high school, I started in Bethlehem Steel Plant, and I worked a few months, and then I said to myself, gee, never thinking about getting one of those, for going to school, you know, you get a
Deferments?
deferment. I said, God, I get some more education. Of course, our family couldn't afford it in college, so I went to ECTI.
What's that?
Erie County Technical Institute. They didn't call it that years back. They called it New York State Institute of Applied Arts and Sciences.
Okay.
On Elmwood, the old Pierce Auto building. And I, after 2 years, received an associate degree in metallurgical technology. That was nice. Perfect for Bethlehem Steel. So I got into the metallurgy department, went back there to work, and as soon as I graduated in August of 1954, I was drafted. So Korea. This is where I found out about it.
You really hadn't been following things up to that?
I really did not follow. I wasn't like, I read papers and that, but I never, you know, nothing about politics or anything like that. I just never followed it. I was just interested in our ball clubs. We were playing ball a lot and stuff like that. Just trying to make it through. You know? So, never thought of it. Never thought of it.
You get your draft notice. What's going through your mind?
That I was going. And, but then I thought back, I said, gee, I actually got a deferment for 2 years by going to ECTI.
Right.
And so August, I've got the notice. I was in the service November 13, 1952. Took my basic training. I gotta mention this, because when I got on the Greyhound bus over here at the Outpost Square to leave for Fort Devens,
Okay.
and I'm not ashamed of it, I totally cried.
Really?
I was leaving my city of Lackawanna and my family.
Was this your first time away from home?
First time away from home. So, okay, so we got to Fort Devens, and we had screaming sergeants and all that, pick up this, pick up that, move this. And then Indian Town Gap, where I took my basic training for 16 weeks.
Okay, what was that like?
Tough. They called it Little Korea, so we knew almost immediately that that's what we're being trained for. The Korean conflict, which they call the Korean conflict at that time.
Okay.
We said.
Now, can you remember anything about basic training? Anything stick out?
Yes, coming in, you were sent through a series of physical tests, and I knew I couldn't do pull-ups. I did maybe 1 or 2, but when I finished basic training, I did maybe 15, 16. And your last, well, prior to that, what they call, we had a bivouac, like 10 days out of bivouac, which we were out, up tents and all that stuff. It was cold out there. And we see thousands of deer. We had to shag deers from the targets, practice targets, before we could fire. There was tons of deer out there. So that was interesting. I'd never seen that many deer at one time in my life.
Right.
So what else? Coming out, we had to go 30 miles. That would be running, slow jog, running, slow jog, 30 miles. And I did it. Which 16 weeks prior to that, I couldn't even think of it.
Now, looking back on it, was
Let me
go
just
ahead.
say one more thing about the basic training. I found out in Korea basic training I got in Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania, U.S. Army, actually saved my life because it disciplined me to a point where I never lost my head.
Mhm.
I was totally disciplined, although tired, fatigued, and everything else. And I actually attribute that to the basic training I received at Indiantown Gap.
Well, that was going to be my question.
Oh.
You had, that's good.
Yeah.
Now, after basic winds up, where do you go?
Basic, where did I go? Came home for a 9-day furlough, and I knew we were going to, although they never told you you're going to Korea. So then I didn't want to, so then I had to be in Chicago at a certain time, a certain date. So I could have flown,
Mhm.
but I took a Greyhound. I just wanted to delay it longer
Right.
and longer. I'm leaving my hometown. So it took me like 10 days to get to Chicago, and I got there in the afternoon. I seen Joni James, which was very popular in our time,
Mhm.
at the Chicago Theater during the afternoon. And prior to that, coming off the bus at the Greyhound, this was at night, I was going to the Sherman Hotel, and somebody tried to sell me the watch. And they pulled their sleeve up, and they had watches up here and there, and I just kept going, you know, until I got into the hotel. Well, so we stayed there, and then I seen the Chicago Theater, and seen Joni James. I watched a movie at the theater called Ruby, which was really depressing. And another thing I want to say about Chicago, I walked off the street into a bar. I could not get served any alcohol, because you got to be 21.
Okay.
And I said, well, how about a Coke or something cold to drink? He said, I can't even serve you at the bar. So I had to sit down, and they were sitting there, and that's what I cleared. But it was amazing to me.
Right.
You know,
Soon you're going to be
coming from New York.
soon you're going to be shot at, but they can't serve you.
With the uniform, I had the uniform on, everything.
Interesting.
But that's okay. I understand their laws and stuff.
Mhm.
So we got on the troop train. It took us 6 or 7 days to get to Camp Stoneman, California.
Okay.
And Camp Stoneman is located in Bethel, New York, but I felt a little at home because I
Mhm.
worked at Bethel Steel.
Okay.
And that seemed to follow me through the whole thing as we go on. I'll point that out. And I stayed there, I think, like 10 days. Drank a lot of milkshakes. And I know one thing about California at that time. During the night it got very cold,
Mhm.
but during the day it was very hot. In your t-shirt. So we shipped out. I shipped out on the USS Hosley.
Now, were you with a unit at that point?
No,
No.
we weren't assigned yet.
Okay. All right. You're going to be coming in as a replacement
Coming in as a replacement of 1745 MOS rifleman,
rifleman,
infantry,
basic infantryman.
basic infantry.
Okay. So you shipped out.
Shipped out. It took exactly 19 days to go over the Pacific, which is why they call it the Pacific. It was as calm as can be.
Really?
It was just beautiful, outstanding. We came into Yokohama just before the sun broke, and we were called up on deck
Mhm.
if we were interested to see the rising sun.
Hmm.
It's a fabulous sight, they told us. So I love Stingray. So I went up on deck, and my description, I'm looking at like a peak mountain, black peak mountains.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, you see a little glow, and in a matter of a second, the sun is right up. I mean, it just takes you away. Beautiful, full sun, rising
Mhm.
sun. So that was on deck just before we got off. And then we came into, from the ship, we were shipped to Camp Drake. We stayed 36 hours. We didn't get off we just continuous processing for
Mhm.
36 hours. Then we came off from camp, we came out of Camp Drake, we boarded the ship. And am I going maybe too fast?
Not at all.
Yeah, just trying. Boarded the ship in Sasebo. And I think that took us like a few days. But then we were taken right to Incheon, Korea. And there we came off on the unloading LST. Come off of that, and I'm looking at Korea for the first time, and I'm looking, where are we going to land? Because everything seemed to be just coming out of the water.
Right.
And as we came closer and closer, we did see a flattening of the country there. And when we got on land, we immediately were given our assignments. I went to the 7th Division, 17th Regiment, Company B. I came over with 11 guys from basic training, and all 11 were from Buffalo.
Really?
But when we split up, I was the only one from the 11 that ended up in this outfit, which was, pardon me, but it was a southern hillbilly outfit, and wherever they went, they had their Confederate flag. And I give them a lot of credit for that. And
How were you received as a Yankee?
I was not received well. I'm glad you asked that question, because I come in there and nobody would talk to me, because they knew I was from New York. So I said, it was strange. Another thing is, as soon as I came in to the first outpost, which was Outpost Erie, just like Erie County,
Right.
and the outfit's name, the 17th Regiment, was called, the motto name is the Buffaloes. So like I say, everybody
Right.
seemed to fit in. So anyway, when I got to the outpost, I was going to, I come into the bunk. The guy said, he said, you're 6 foot. Joe's going back home. You take the B.A.R. That's how I got the B.A.R. Because they told you in basic, do not volunteer for the B.A.R. because it's a weapon, automatic. You're always first, and they always want to knock you out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I got the B.A.R.
Because.
And then I got the love. So it was a very secure weapon.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you initially come in, nobody was really speaking to you.
No, okay, we get back to that. So I got the point, there were people from it was just southern, completely southern. I call them southern hillbillies. But then I said, look, I just threw it in. I said, I'm actually from a little city south of Buffalo called Lackawanna. And I belonged to the 4-H when I was a kid. I used to take ducks, chickens, rabbits over to Hamburg Fair,
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, my brother, Matthew, was killed in World War II. He got the championship rooster. We had that big silver trophy, a B.A.R rooster.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget that. I always thought that. And that's and once I brought all these other things out,
Right.
it sort of fell in my this guy, New York City kid.
Right. So they assume everybody from New York is from New York City.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Okay.
That's what I started saying. So that was sort of fun.
So they began to warm up once they realized that you were.
And then, of course, I had the B.A.R, so they had to warm up pretty well. I became like the guy.
Ah. So in the squad, you're carrying the B.A.R.
I'm carrying the B.A.R.
Okay. What was your sergeant like?
Sergeant, pretty good, but I have to give you a story about him. He was from the south, and as far as grenades, he would love to pull a pin on a grenade. I mean, this is how he threw his grenade. He pulled a pin and let the top fire off. Then he threw the grenade. Most of us, as trained, we pulled a pin, we're holding the handle down on the grenade, and then we would throw it. This guy would release the handle on his grenade. It would pop off, then he would throw it. He maybe had 1 second, maybe 1 second and a half. So I asked him, I said, why do you think every grenade is made perfectly? I mean, you've heard of quality control maybe, and not everything is perfect. He says, well, if I do it this way, you can't throw it back at me. Very good point. I said, why don't you just throw it higher or farther?
He just had his own way of doing
it. He just had his own way, and he got through okay. I mean,
Was he a good sergeant?
Good sergeant. Everybody invented it, actually.
Good
And
squad.
the closer we got to combat, everybody was very cooperative, and everybody remembered Jesus. Everybody had a spirit about themselves.
Mhm.
Even though maybe they didn't have a religion, but they all felt that way.
Mhm.
Everybody couldn't do enough for everybody else. Everybody else. It was great. So, you always had to watch yourself.
Mhm. Now, all right, you've become a member of the squad. You're the new B.A.R. man because you're 6 foot. And
Yep.
where did you go? Where was the first place that you went after?
After Outpost Erie,
Yes.
we just jumped from outpost to outpost. And what we did, I'll give you like an itinerary for the day.
Sure. Great.
You get up in the morning, okay, clean your weapon, that would be the first thing. Now, you're in an outpost.
Now explain
gotta be
what is an
careful.
outpost?
An outpost is in front of your main line of resistance. It's strictly, like, only you could say like reconnaissance duty.
Mhm.
Always on patrol. Every second day you're pulling a patrol, ambush, combat, and you're out there in the valley trying to do your job. But it was very nerve-wracking. It was very, and you had to be, I wanted to get home, you know what I mean? So, we had a guy that came out there. Could I backtrack a little?
Absolutely.
When we came to Outpost Erie, I come off of an Army personnel carrier. The new people that new recruits that were coming in. And around the bend of Outpost Erie, there was 3 stretchers coming in. And they were bringing in 3 stretchers. The guys were bringing them in. And that's all I can remember about that. I didn't give it a close look, but I can remember the arms of GIs hanging over the stretchers, you know. They were
Mhm.
dead. They were dead. And I said, gee, what happened? He said they fell asleep out there. And the Chinese crept up on them and could slit their throats, all 3 of them. From that point on, I said to myself, I am never going to sleep. Never. Particularly if I'm out there in the valley. No way. So would you believe one day we're out there, we're at a listening post, maybe 3, 4, 6 men, and one of the GIs brings a poncho. And when we found out that he brought a poncho out, first of all, it makes too much noise. You don't want to get that relaxed out there. So he didn't stay with the unit after that. He was transferred out.
Hmm.
Another person fired his weapon while on patrol. He was transferred out. Maybe it was a gimmick on that person's this, but maybe it was just a mistake. But they couldn't have anybody out there that could give your position away.
Mhm.
So that's a little 2 side stories.
Hmm.
So anyway, from there we went to.
Excuse me. How long were you? Now you have outpost duty.
No,
How
I'm
long?
good.
How long are you out in the outpost?
You would stay at an outpost maybe 3 to 4 weeks.
Really?
But every second day you were on a patrol, and you were out there in the valley, and you could hear them, and you could hear their burp guns burping. We call it burp gun burps. Red flares this is what they used for instead of radios and all that stuff for communication
Mhm.
north south. And occasionally you'd always be in a firefight. Not always, but most of the time you're in
Really?
a firefight. And you learn that if you heard any noise, you wouldn't fire, you'd throw a grenade.
Why is that?
This way they wouldn't know, you wouldn't give your position.
Okay.
See, when that guy fired that rifle, that
Right.
position away.
So you learned these things rather quickly.
Quickly, because I'll tell you why, because I wanted to get home. I had that great desire to go home again. I really did. I guess everybody did, but I really had a great desire. And so I was extra careful. And then I watched my mother go through a very, very unhappy moment when the telegrams came in.
Mhm.
And I was home, I was about 10 years old. There was one telegram, wounded in action. 3 days later, another telegram come in, died of wounds. I went through that, and I just never will forget it. And I always felt that I would be extra careful,
Sure.
because I didn't want my mother to go through something like that again. So I just had to get it.
Mhm.
Now, question.
Okay, so you're up on in the outpost for 3 or 4 weeks. That's a pretty long.
That's one outpost, yeah.
Okay, that's
I'm only, I can't even give you the exact, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks.
all right.
we ate sea rations,
Okay.
and we'd have a hot meal brought to us every day, 5, 6 o'clock. Army personnel carrier would come up
Mm-hmm.
and set up a food line behind the hill.
Mm-hmm.
I never missed on that.
What were you most concerned about during, say, like the evening?
Oh. Okay. The most concerned that I was going out on patrol.
That's when you're the most vulnerable?
Absolutely. And the other thing, if you didn't go on a patrol, you were right on the outpost, and you had a position to guard.
Mm-hmm.
So it was either in a bunker, or a trench line, you stay there all night watching, waiting for anything to listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you were like say you were on an ambush, you were
Okay.
you were going to ambush somebody. Not all of it, but you were going to ambush somebody. Or a contact patrol. You had to make contact with the enemy before you came back. That was the idea of a contact. So you knew you were going to see some action, you know. And it was just nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was a typical contact patrol like?
You go out with about 40 men, you break up into 2 groups. That's even the ambush patrol. And one would back you up, and when you found something, you had to go in and make contact.
Mm-hmm.
And get maybe a prisoner, get anything they may have, maybe they have something for fighting, anything on them.
Now, what was the job of the B.A.R. man in the contact patrol?
He was always first, or down. He was always, the first you had the point man.
Okay.
He would come out first, and then the B.A.R. man would be next,
Now, why is that?
automatic weapon.
Why did they put the B.A.R. man second?
Because the point man was supposed to be more, less maybe seen or something.
Mhm.
Like the B.A.R. man was closer with the rest of the guys on patrol.
Mm-hmm.
But the point man was set up maybe 50, 60 yards out there.
Okay.
And he would be checking on mines and whatever he could spot,
Mm-hmm.
radio back to us. And as a B.A.R. man, I was more with the patrol.
Gotcha.
I was the first guy out
Mm-hmm.
of the squad.
The squad.
Yeah.
Make you feel kind of special?
Well, that they alerted me, and it kept me more alert.
Mhm.
And I knew that a lot of people were depending on the B.A.R. and
Right.
So there's your firepower, no question about it.
Heavy weapon?
20 pounds.
20 pounds.
Belt weighed 20 pounds. The guy that carried the other belt weighed 20 pounds. I mean, he didn't weigh it, but the belt weighed 20 pounds. It was a
Mhm.
heavy weapon. But you get used to it.
Yeah.
I went into Korea at 210. I came out of Korea at 174. Never felt better in my life, as far as physically, mentally, I believe, but physically, no aches or pains or nothing. I felt great at 174.
Now, the B.A.R., how is it generally fired? Bipod or?
No, they give us a bipod. I fire from the hip.
Really?
Most of them are fired from the hip. There's no, unless you're like maybe in a stationary position where they want you a different, and you're going to sit there with the B.A.R. and you put it on a tripod.
Mhm.
But even then, you don't need it. It was just bulky material that you really didn't need, because you shot from your hip, or you can aim it. And if you're up on a trench line
Mm-hmm.
and you're looking down into the valley, you can put your B.A.R. up there. And just
So you got to like the weapon?
love it. Love the weapon.
Mm-hmm. And in an ambush patrol,
Ambush would be the same thing. You go out with 40 men, and you break up into 2 units, run back up all the time, and you just wait for the enemy to come through. They might have, maybe they have information about Chinese patrols going through an area,
Mhm.
something like that, so you set up an ambush.
what were your platoon level officers like?
As far as
Well, competence,
what they were confident, we had a Lieutenant Merkel from Detroit. I have to talk about him. He was very confident. He was just terrific with the men. And
Mhm.
he just knew he knew what he was doing.
Mhm.
So we sort of believed that. Very good.
what made a good officer, do you think, as being an enlisted man?
What made a good officer? eventually, when he makes a decision and the decision comes out good, it adds to his popularity.
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell you an off-line story? This is going a little ahead now.
Sure.
Outpost pork chop was Lieutenant Richard Shea, second lieutenant, ROTC lieutenant. When he joined the outfit, he came on with 245s on each side. He was a gung-ho lieutenant. And we all knew the second lieutenants that came in that way were sort of gung-ho. But at the end of Pork Chop Hill, after 5 days of battle, he was heroic. At the end, he received the Congressional Medal of Honor, although posthumously he didn't make it. But I felt that I was one of the last persons to talk to him when he was making the mad charges up Pork Chop Hill. And his face was battered. You know, not bloody, battered. His hands were all cut up from barbed wire. But he insisted on making charges to clear Chinese from the bunkers at the top of Pork Chop. So that's how I really got to know him. And later, some of our people from our company and from our regiment were sent to Washington, D.C. when the family was presented the Congressional Medal of Honor. And this was yet during the war. But anyway, I'll never forget that.
Now, you're
Second lieutenant.
you're at Outpost Erie for
Let's say
a few weeks.
6 weeks.
All right, and then do they pull you out of line?
Yeah, no, we were strictly outpost. All the time I spent
All the
there was
time.
outpost. Yeah. Then when they put us on outpost Arsenal, which was alongside of that same area, we work off of that. Then there was Hill 200, Hill 347. We were directly facing to our left, always outpost Baldy, which is, that was a big hill. The Marines were on in 50, 51. And I think the 2nd Division was also on that hill. Well, when we were staring at it from, say, Outpost Pork, that was my main hill, Outpost Pork Chop. We seen nobody on the hill, although our binoculars were always during the day on the hill, trying to find something. We seen nothing on the hill. So then, the last hill, the main encounter I had, the most combat I've ever seen, and like I mentioned to you earlier, I can't, you know, I can't get in my mind like World War II veteran jumping from one island to one island in the Pacific and getting out alive. I couldn't see how I could do it because one battle would just do me right in. And Outpost Pork Chop just did me right in.
So when did you, when you arrived at Outpost Pork Chop, just
Yeah.
seemed like any...
It seemed like any other night. You might see it, you might be in a firefight, you might not. But we went on July 5th, 1953. Down in the valley, around the hill, out into the valley, and we got ourselves positioned and everything else. This was an ambush patrol. At 12 o'clock midnight, we were out there on the 5th of July. 12 o'clock midnight on the 6th of July, we received incoming artillery. Well, prior to that, as we were watching, like from say 8 in the evening till 12, we seen tremendous amounts of like people gathering in the valley. Every so often a flare would go up and we see this. And then we seen...
This was unusual, this is something you hadn't seen before.
No, that's right, I've never seen it. And you had to feel that they're gonna hit a hill. So we heard the burp guns, we seen the red flares of the Chinese slow up. And I even spotted a huge white horse in the valley, which nobody else had seen. Okay, because I checked back later, because I actually seen it twice during this battle. I seen it before the battle, this horse down in the valley, and you gotta remember that the valley is being lit up a little. And it's one of the, and the hair was just flowing off this horse. It looked like one of those huge with the big hoofs and the big shoulders, Clydesdale. That's what it looked like to me, but it was white. Okay, so that's one thing. So then at 12 o'clock midnight, we got hit by artillery. We were on the patrol. told to get covered, make yourself, prior to that, the entire valley, what Rich Haltz mentioned, the entire valley was lit up, and it was like daylight. So where we were perched, we could see what was happening. The Chinese were coming up the center of Pork Chop Hill. I'd say probably thousands. I'll say hundreds, but it's had to be into the thousands. Screaming Chinese coming up. This is where I see this white horse again. And I say that it's almost like I had what would you call it, like a religious experience? Because I felt that this huge animal was in between us and the enemy coming up the center of the hill, our patrol and the enemy. And later I came to the conclusion that it was like a protector. Or it was maybe something for the Chinese, that was directing traffic for the troops which way to go. I don't know. But it was riderless. There was nobody on the horse. But anyway, we seen everything coming up. We heard it. We seen it. Now we're cut off. We can't get. They're over the hill within maybe a half hour, 45 minutes of training. They're over Pork Chop Hill. Now we get to call to get covered because they're going to put up what they call variable time artillery. Airburst comes down this way. So get cover or we're going to be wasted. So we worked our way, I should say worked our way, we fought our way back up to the top of the hill. We cleared bunkers. That's where the B.A.R became very important. We cleared bunkers and we got into these bunkers and then the artillery fired. And believe me, when we came off the hill, we were told to exit a different part of the hill and we had to run down a trench line, maybe about 50, 60 yards, maybe 100 yards, open trench line. And I can remember 3 deep. The Chinese were in the trench line 3 deep. Trenches were over 7 foot deep. And I can remember like when I was running over them to get into the RV, it was like stepping on a lot of pillow, you know. But it was 3 deep, and they were done away by our artillery variable time. You didn't get cover, you would have been wasted. We would have been wasted.
Now, you're on the patrol. The patrol is told to get back up the hill.
After the battle started.
After the battle started. Now, who all is on top of the hill at this point?
There was another regiment from the 7th Division, and we were going to, in fact, we were going to occupy that hill. We were going to replace this other regiment prior to this Pork Chop battle. We were supposed to replace them, so they were on Hill 200, just in back of Pork Chop, making the first counterattack. After the Chinese took the hill. We're out on the patrol, we can't get through it. We have to fight our way back to the top of the hill where the bunkers were, where we get some protection. And so that's where the whole thing, and getting through these trenches, working our way back to exit was not easy because B.A.R. men, here we go, step forward. We were going through first. They're all covered, these trenches. So you're going through first. And then all of us, and the Chinese were throwing grenades at us from, they get situated alongside the sides of the trenches, and they would throw grenades out. Well, I'm the first guy to see a grenade, I go, grenade. So backtracking, trying to get back, you got 20 guys behind you. So you're getting clobbered by small pieces of shrapnel, small piece of clay off the trenches, So it was quite a thing to get through, but we did get through, and we got off the hill. And we had to actually run off the hill because it was being sniped. That area was being sniped by the Chinese.
So how long were you on the hill?
I was on the hill from July 6th to July 10th. And I have to mention this to you, you can, whatever you want to do with it, but I have to mention it. When we got into the bunkers, prior to that, I'm not a totally religious person. I went to church with my mother like everybody else did. But as we got into the bunker, it's nighttime. Now, we had 3 in a bunker, and I had 2 other guys from my area, from Lackawanna. One was Lackawanna, graduated from Lackawanna High School, Bob Thornton, and Peyton Shaman, according to lives on this land in South Buffalo. I didn't know prior. We were together in this bunker. And I said to him, I said, wouldn't it be something? I mean, it would be something to see our names in the paper. 3 die on Fort Jack Hill. And we laughed about it. We snickered about it. We were tired. But each one took a rest, and the other 2 stayed up. The Chinese were talking to us. That's how close we were. They were on top of the hill. We just had bunkers there. We talked about the Yankees, and we talked about, if you see the movies. Backtrack a little more. I just want to talk about, every time we went on patrol, we heard Carolina Moon. The Chinese played these songs to us, and Carolina Moon just stuck. So, okay, getting back to this, so I'm away. I goes off. Peyton Shaman hits me on the shoulder, and he says, he hits me on the shoulder. And he said, is it time for church? This is where my mind was. So as morning broke, I look on the bunker wall, and carved in the wall, there's a psalm, which I didn't realize it was a psalm until I'm clearing the moisture off the clay wall, and it says, now you gotta figure we're pretty well beat out, tired, and we're almost on a give up stage, you know. It says, fear not the one who hurts the body. Fear the one who hurts the soul. And to me, and I was not a Bible reader. I had the missile when I went to church, but not a Bible reader. That just, I can't even, the best of my words, it just elevated me. It just untired me. It just, it gave me a greater desire to even make it home. It just picked me right up.
Amazing.
And it was an amazing thing. It was carved in by us, by probably a blade, you know, into whoever was there first. Whoever was there first, it was carved in there by somebody. And you had to relate. You know, in other words, you know, you felt like, all right, you're gone. It's all over for you. But you forgot about your spirit.
Right.
That's the whole story.
How are you being supplied there?
We weren't supplied.
You weren't?
We were not supplied. We could not be supplied. We just went hungry. We didn't even think of eating or anything like that. Nothing was with us. In fact, even we hit some rain. There were some rainy days, and our weapons were malfunctioning, particularly the M1s. We didn't even have oil. Put some oil in there, so we didn't have it. We had nothing for those 5 days. So it was actually 5 full days.
And
that's how I come out 174. Wait.
so how many total were on the hill?
Okay, I give you one figure that I always was told, of the 240 men from Company B, 17th Regiment, which is the company I was in, only 38 of us came off after 5 days of Fort Chop Hill, July 6th, that was in Naval, July 6th or July 10th, we were up there July 5th. And only 38 of us, not that everybody got killed, 38 come off and we could walk off. Not wounded or not, no injuries.
Just a second, we're going to change tapes.
And it's called the Buffaloes and all that stuff. It was a little gift from them.
Now,
in other words, our life was a plug nickel.
who was commanding your group on Pork Chop Hill? You remember?
I can't. It was General Trudeau. Okay. He was the head of that. And I have to give him a lot of credit too, because he made a decision on the 10th. Even though we got most of the hill back, we had to just clear out some bunkers. He said, take them off the hill. It's only real estate that's going over to the enemy during the Panmunjom talks anyway. And why should we lose any more lives? Take them off. And so we got off, and believe me, he saved lives, and I'll never forget his name. And Richard Pulse, my friend here from Lackawanna in the younger days, he pointed out in the magazine, the VFW, the latest VFW magazine, where it said the 20th, what was it, 20th?
20
Bloodiest.
20th biggest battles
I'm telling you that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a great experience. It was a hard experience. I never thought I would make it. And maybe through a little intervention, I must bring this up. My mother was widowed. My father died when I was 5.
Mm.
She was a buff on the rosary for the Holy Mother. And I know she prayed tough. She prayed hard. And I really have to say that out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there was some supernatural thing out there, and I could pinpoint it, that actually was sort of like either helping me or whatever, got me out of a lot of tight spots.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, after Pork Chop Hill, we got taken off. Okay, we're up on 347. Would you believe I pulled another patrol? But I became a radio man at that point because we lost so many people.
Mm-hmm.
So I was behind the lieutenant. We come out on another ambush patrol from a different area, and that's when I got wounded. I was wounded off a pork chop, but that was merely pieces of shrapnel and facial wounds with little scars, and barbed wire. Barbed wire really cut my hands up. And because you know when we had to back up the hill,
Mm-hmm.
both with barbed wire that we set out there ourselves, trying to
Mm-hmm.
stop the enemy, but we were on patrol. We had to work our way back up. But and then I stepped on a landmine and blew up the center of the patrol. Nobody was killed. There was maybe 3 or 4 that were injured, and I caught a fragmentation of my left thigh. And that's when I came out of Korea. I went to Busan, Swedish hospital.
How was that?
I was only there for surgery. I was there maybe a week, and then shipped right over. One little story about that, they gave you, when they knocked you out, they gave you the gas.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible experience, to knock you out, what do you use, what's the name of that? They give you, usually they give you like a needle or something to put you out for the operation.
Mm-hmm.
And this was, put a mask on, you breathe in, breathe out, and knock you out, you get up, the operation's over, but it was a horrible feeling. You know, you were like racing out there, and you never got to where you were going. But anyway, so I stayed there a week, maybe 10 days, shipped to Osaka, Japan, 382nd Buffalo Army General Hospital.
Was the care generally pretty good?
Absolutely great. Another thing, I never felt pain from the injury.
Mm-hmm.
I felt more pain, like from the barbed wire cuts and the little piece of shrapnel. But when I stepped on this landmine, I never felt that. Somebody gave me a shot, one of the medics gave me a shot, and I was escorted up the hill. 2 people escorted me up the hill, right onto a jeep, right into first, what do they call that? Your medical tent, first evac hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the first, at that place is the first time I had a cigarette. A chaplain gave me a cigarette. He says, light up. He says, have it. I said, I don't smoke. He says, have it anyway. That's when I thought I was going to lose my leg.
Mm-hmm.
I thought bad news is coming. So anyway, from there, on helicopter to Seoul, and from Seoul, troop train to Busan. And then, what I said, and the 382nd Army General Hospital in Osaka, where I spent 3 months, Thanksgiving, Christmas. And the first time I'm coming in on the ambulance into the hospital, and they give me a glass of milk. And brother, that was like $1,000,000 plus. It was great. I can't explain it, but it was just terrific. I could have drank it for 2 gallons. And then you start seeing people, people walking on the streets. We're going through Osaka now. So.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a relief. nobody was firing over your shoulder.
So how long were you on the line?
I was on line from late April of '53 to July 18th, 1953 when I went into the landman. And in between there, patrol duty, firefights, but my biggest action was Outpost pork chop, which was a tremendous experience. I was glad I got off okay, but I think I had other people working there.
So you were on the line for 3 months straight, pretty much?
3 months straight.
No relief?
No relief.
Was that unusual or was that usual?
No, once in a while they take you behind for showering.
Okay.
But you wore the same clothes and you had your C rations on the outpost and you had your hot meal come in every day. And they never missed, like they say, they never miss with turkey on Thanksgiving Day, they never miss. You have it. So no matter where you are, you're going to get your turkey.
What was the equipment like that you were carrying?
Regular fatigues, Mickey Mouse boots, which were tremendous. They kept your feet so warm that you had to rinse your socks on. Every so many miles, that's all. Mickey Mouse boots.
Why are they
Saved a
called
lot of
Mickey Mouse?
people's feet.
Why are they called?
They look like Mickey Mouse boots.
Okay.
And parkas, which were excellent, very warm. You had your dog tags around your neck at all times. That's all you had to have. Dog tags. You don't see like colonels, lieutenants wearing the bars or anything, stripes, nothing like that in the front line. All that's a women, like you see in the movies, you see them having a bars. Nothing like that is on the front line. You want to keep yourself to being really not known at all what your rank is. Or
Right.
that's, and that's about it on the clothes part. Ponchos, although I watched on the History Channel, 50, 51, everybody seemed to have a poncho, and they were wearing it. When I was there, nobody wore their ponchos. This one guy took a poncho out there in the patrol.
Right.
He intended to sleep out there, make himself comfortable. But nobody, they just discarded their ponchos. It was just extra equipment. It rained, you were in it, you dried off in it. After rain, it rained again, you dried off, and that's the way it was. Until you got back somehow to the rear, you got showers, new clothes and stuff. You kept your weapon was most important. Right.
Much sickness?
I didn't see anybody sick.
Really?
Nobody was sick. I never felt better in my life as far as no backaches, nothing. No headaches.
What was your,
Remember one thing, though, when we were going over, we got 13 shots.
what was your view of the Chinese?
Well, let me go back to Pork Chop Hill. The first group that came over the hill, they came over without weapons. They came over the barbed wire into the minefields, mines that were protecting the pork chop. And to me, as close vantage of something, and the way they were yelling, I thought they were sort of on a drum. I thought they were on a drum. How can you send people into a minefield? Well, that's the first group that came over. Then the second group came over with the automatic weapons, the burp guns. You heard that? You can't get that out of your head. The sound of a burp gun, which is the sound of a toy gun. That's what it is. And then after that group came over, now this is all being done within an hour. The third group that's coming up is groups, they're bringing up bags and stuff, supplies, ammunition. They're going to stay there. So, and then that was it. That was, and now in the trench line, we were fighting against, because there are Mongolian Chinese, from Mongolia. But we were fighting the smaller people. And they could get into the smallest hole in the trench line along the wood beams, and they're tough to get out. They just throw a grenade out at you. You'd spray that area with a B.A.R. It didn't mean got one more thing I
Sure.
gotta say. He was in the mortars. The people, the Chinese that they fired their mortars, if they would fire 3 at a time. They would fire 3. They would fire one, if this thing was closer, if the next one was closer to you, you could almost figure that the third one was gonna be right on you.
Mhm.
That's how accurate they were with their mortars. So that's another thing you gotta give credit for.
Mhm. So you'd have to be very careful,
Not to give your position away.
right.
Because if they knew you were out there, they could mortar you. That's
Mhm. Mhm. So looking back on your experience, what's your general impression?
Looking back at the experience, I'm not gonna say I enjoyed every bit of this whole experience, because there were some tough times. When I got out, I was glad I went through it. Getting back to my brother Manny that was killed in World War II,
Mhm.
he couldn't wait to get in. And that was, the people at that time, I remember 3 deep around the post office, joining up. And, people of all ages, 14, 15, all trying to get in, after Pearl Harbor.
Mhm.
Well, my brother worked in the steel plant in Bethlehem Steel, and he was sort of like exempt, but he couldn't take it. He couldn't take it anymore. Everybody going in, his friends were going in. He had to go in. And so he went in, and he didn't even last a year. He was killed. That's how it goes. I had to bring that up.
That's okay.
It was part of my performing, my reaction.
So when you come back to Lackawanna, what?
Oh, the trip coming back was, we came into Fort Lewis and Washington State. Coming back, we took a troop train again, 6 days to get to Chicago, plane to New York, another train going into Buffalo. So when I came home in a cab. I remember my other brother came home in a cab, and I was looking through a window at Franklin School, which was directly across from my house.
Mhm.
Because we were all waiting for him to come in. He served 5 years in World War II, my brother Edward. And as he came in, there was a big yellow cab, and these cab drivers still wore their hats to come out, the duffel bag. And I was watching from the window, and the teacher said, "What are you?" And I said, "Well, my brother just came back from the Army." And I ran out of the building to meet him. And I could hear the teacher say, "Go ahead, go ahead." So when I came in the cab. Naturally, I came in the cab, and my whole family was there, and I just overwhelmed.
Mhm.
That, when you're in the Army, when you're like in basic, when you're in combat, when you're in, 2 years away from your family, when you're in basic, you don't have anything from the outside.
Right.
You don't have a radio, you don't have nothing. And it's just like when I first came back, when I was wounded, I came back to Japan, and I seen people, and that big glass of milk the guy gave me in the ambulance. And it's the same thing when you're coming back home. You see your home, and you see your neighbors, your friends. It was an astounding feeling.
Mhm. And did you go right back to work?
I forget. I think I had a year off. I think we picked up on Army payments. I think
Mhm.
they had something there for a year, and then I went right back to work. Where I picked up my seniority again. They held my seniority. So the 2 years I spent in Korea, I came back, and that seniority counted.
Mhm.
And another thing, I would join my department, the metallurgical department, and I talked to my boss who lost his son in Korea,
Mm.
Wesley Hoy, in Hamburg, New York. And I was accepted by pretty well everybody else, but my job was a job I floated throughout the whole plant, watching the process of making and steel,
Mhm.
and for the customer, giving a report to the customer, making, shipping, and processing steel. So I was running into a lot of people that I thought I knew pretty well, and then they never knew I was gone. I was gone for 2 years, and they said, "What happened? Were you?" Nobody would even ask me. They thought I was still around. They thought maybe I was in a different part of the plant or something like that. And other people said, and then when I said, well, I was in Korea then I was drafted. Oh, they never put it together.
Life just went on.
It just went on.
And you stayed with the...
I stayed with Bethlehem for almost 32 years. And after Bethlehem, and another thing, I went back to school. That's when I went to Michigan State.
Okay.
Under a GI Bill, which was another great thing for us. And then I went back to Bethlehem again. That seniority counted also. And that was it. And then Bethlehem shut its doors in '83. I was out. And then I couldn't find a job. I was like 51 years old, but I had a Bethlehem State pension. But I needed something more. Fire away for Social Security. So the only one that offered me a job was West Seneca Developmental Center, where I became a teacher. Teaching retired. But prior to that, I went back to school, Buffalo State, picked up education courses. And I was also a teacher, not a full-time teacher, but a sub-teacher, from '88 to '92. I worked at West Seneca Developmental from '88 to '92. I worked double shift. And then I got hurt in West Seneca Developmental, and that's when I retired.
Now, do you look back at the Korean conflict as the forgotten? Do you think it's a forgotten war?
I think it's forgotten. I think it was forgotten. This is their anniversary, though. These 3 years are the Korean War anniversary. 50 years. It's forgotten because I've heard stories where Post wouldn't even recognize you as to be a member in the Korean Post. I've heard stuff like that. And then everybody, even myself, to tell you the truth, I think the big one for me was World War II. Because there was so much that happened when I was a kid. In the Korean War, I could see that it could be forgotten. But you got to remember, they had 56,000 people killed in the Korean War. But I feel that it is forgotten. In print, I see it in newspapers. When they talk about a Korean vet, they slack off. And maybe it's because they call it a police action.
Does that bother you?
It never did, because police action or whatever they want to call it, you could have lost your life there. But I think it was President Clinton, and we were there for the anniversary of 1997, 2000, where Clinton said right on the thing there, he said that the Korean War was not a police action; it was a war, and it was official as far as everybody else. But it is sort of forgotten. So you don't have the Iwo Jimas.
Right. Now, coming home, how were you treated when you came home by the community?
Well, if you go up Electric, they probably didn't even know you were gone.
Right.
The street that I live on, my family, everybody treated me right. I never.
No parades or anything like that?
No, there was nothing like that. There was a big, the band met us in Washington State, Fort Lewis. When we came in, there was a band playing and all that stuff. It was a cool thing. But as far as my friends just glad to see me, and they were glad to see them. There was nothing. Even you yourself, even me myself, you just want to forget about it. You just go on and do your other things. And that was it.
Any final comments?
I just want to thank all you people that are responsible. I think it was Governor Pataki's program for allowing me to come out and say something about it, because most veterans, including myself, we did not talk about it.
Right.
But the idea today is what we see out there in the cities and everything. I think that the young should hear about this. And I'll tell you another thing. When I watched that movie on TV about World War when they invaded France, now I had the impression, but I didn't have it as much as after I watched that movie, where they came off these amphibious carriers. And I said to myself, they have to know, and these kids were 18, 19 years old, maybe even younger. They were going going into direct fire. They had to know that they were either gonna get wounded or killed. This was their last day on Earth, maybe. And when the young people in the high school, they should be shown this World War II episode. They should be shown that, because I think it could change a lot. It changed my thinking.
Mhm.
Just added to my education about World War II.
All right.
What they gave, so everybody else could do what they're doing right now in this country.
Mhm. Well, thank you
But I
very,
want to thank Governor Pataki and the whole program, Wayne, yourself, for allowing me to do this.
well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Now, we have a little bit of paperwork.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. This organization is called the Dai Han Foundation of Western New York. It's a Korean foundation. And last September, October, they invited Korean vets for a dinner up at the, on Transit Road, the big place there. And it says, I'm just gonna read this. Have you got it up? I'm just gonna.
Let me zoom,
Let me read it for you.
Okay.
It says, the Dai Han Foundation of Western New York honors Leon M. Gorczyca, 7th Infantry Division, for your service in the Korean War, 1950-1953, 50th anniversary, February 10th, 2001. So, it was a beautiful gift, and it was a beautiful dinner they had for about 12 of us.
Hold it flat, let me zoom in on it.
And it was sort of surprised.
Oh, good.
Got it.
This-
Go ahead.
Now, I noticed that there's actually a picture of the, we get
Psalm.
a picture of the psalm that you described in the bunker.
Can you hold it flat? Get a little over the top.
Where did you come across this photograph?
Well, what happened when I went back to school, Buffalo State, I
Mhm.
had to take one of the, a liberal course in writing,
Right?
and he wanted us to write about some religious experience you had. And
Okay.
it just fell in for me to write about this experience.
Right.
So what I did is I got clay. I refabricated what I seen
Okay.
at home, and I took a picture of it.
Okay.
There's no way I was getting a good picture up there.
Right.
But if you notice the thin lines and all that, I tried to recreate
Mhm.
things. And I also, I don't know if I gave you the story that I wrote on that. Maybe I didn't. And it was published by the professor. He used it in his teaching manuals or something.
Really? I don't think we,
You don't have that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I have a copy.
Could we get a copy of it?
I can give you a copy. I can give you a
Great,
copy.
great. This was in a local Polish paper?
That's Polish paper, yeah. That was the local, they called it the Dziennik. Your wife would maybe understand that. A daily paper, though.
Okay. Well, thank you.